I literally look like someone who sells bath salts to Mormons. Maybe that'll finally get them off my lawn. No, they'll be dead on the lawn. I don't know if there's fentanyl in bath salts. I don't even know what's really in bath salts. All I know is you're not supposed to put bath salts in your body. But, yeah. Little salty feet equals sodium at the feet. Because you'll literally be defeated, undead. But yeah. I'm kind of at a crossroads with my jacket or with my clothing for the video. I can't tell if I look like, a grandmother who was just woke up in the middle of the night because, the actual mother decided to go out with her old friends from college, and they decided to have a night out on the town, realizing this is why you have two kids in the first place. And oh no, we'll be back at 2 a.m. And then they're back at 4 p.m. the next day saying oh yeah, it was just, whoa, we just got really fucked up. And it's yeah, that's great. I missed my shift at work because you and Allie decided to go get drugged in an alley. Voluntarily, of course. I would not say that if you're getting drugs in an alley, it would automatically assume that you're being forced to take something. But typically, the reason why cats hang out in the dark alleys is because they think they know it all. And apparently people keep getting drugs in alleys and thinking that, man, this one will be different. So yeah, I don't know if, just stay at home with your kids. I guess that's more of all that. And don't take bath salts. But I will take bath salts before I ever become Mormon. That's a fact. Yeah. So that's a great opening message. Positivity. But yeah. Welcome to episode 215 of the Off and Me podcast with Clint Nelson. Like that big old Dragon Ball Z of energy I started the pod with. Yeah, there it is. I found my grunt. Yeah, welcome to episode 215 of the Off and Be podcast with Clint Nelson. I'm your host, Clint Nelson. Still redundant, but I feel like I'm going to have to say that for the next 8 years of my life that I'm doing this podcast, because it's just in case you forget my name, even though it's in the title, even though I repeat it when I say the title, even though you see it on the screen, you hear me say it, it's my full name. No middle name, because middle name is for middlemen. And I'm either going to be a complete bottom out bum in society, or I'm going to be a top 0.0002% of milk, because I like sucking on them titters. But yeah, episode 215, the Offbeat podcast with Clint Nelson. I'm your host, Clint Nelson. Don't forget to like, follow, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Most important, ladies and gentlemen, don't forget to suck some titties. And the cat has officially melded in. See, the cat was all energetic before I was starting the pod, trying to get my attention, trying to be like, oh, just interrupting me. But the second I start the pod, they just want to stare down in defeat of their little igloo cheetah print. Fucking, that's the real small booty with the cheetah tattoo. It's these cats. Yeah. Today's sponsor, Dunkin, where I'm basically, the thing is, when you get to that big of a company, you're really do we really need you as a sponsor? When you get so big, you're like, we're helping you more than you're helping us. So why the fuck should we come on your show? It's because if you knew the things I saw at the location I go to, it would be bigger than a Tucker Carlson Trump interview. Which apparently I found out today that Twitter, I don't go on Twitter, so I don't really know. Well, I guess it's called X, because X is just to mark the spot, because that's the one you really want. It's a Nickelback reference. It's literally from a song called Sex. It's kind of a corny song, but it was back when Nickelback actually felt like you were listening to, somewhat rock music. But apparently what I learned Twitter is that a view is literally just if it runs across your screen. So a view on Twitter is like an impression on YouTube. It just means the algorithm or someone has typed in some keywords into something and they visibly saw your video or the video that they didn't necessarily have to click, but they saw it, so it counts as an impression, but it's not a view. But on Twitter, impressions actually equals view. So I guess Twitter has a lower standard because you could typically tell by the comments, the quotes, likes. Like, it didn't make sense. For someone with 233 million views, there probably should have been more than like 80,000 comments, which if you want to give me 80,000 comments, please, it's to tell me I'm pretty. It's the pretty boy versus the petty boys. Which, by the way, fuck Google. Well, that's probably not good to say on a platform owned by Google. But you know what? Sometimes you got to call out your employers that aren't paying you yet. That's really what YouTube is, I guess. I mean, it's voluntary, so it's not real like... YouTube is just one big internship program. It's just like, hey, everyone, come here, see, and keep putting out stuff, and we might pay you one day. But you might have to work here for 10 years before you ever get paid. Imagine any job that will let you do that. It's like, yeah, just stick around the office for 10 years, dedicate as much time, come and go when you please. But, we'll get around to paying you. But when we pay you, we will pay you. But whoever is paid to notify when albums are dropped by the biggest artists in the world should lose their internship, because I was really just minding my business. Literally just minding my fucking business, eating. Had an okay day. And I get a notification on my phone which tells you Google is basically, anytime you get a Google notification, it's not because you subscribed to anything. It's not because you said, hey, anytime this subject matter happens, let me know. It's just because they track your phone. They know everything you listen to and watch on every fucking thing you go to. So as you may expect, I get a notification that just says Drake / all the dogs. Or is it all my dogs? Basically, his upcoming album coming out. I'm like, wait. I know we put out the artwork. It's Friday. It's 12:56. Is it telling me that Drake dropped the album tonight? So you know what I did? I immediately clicked on Spotify, and I thought, like, man, it's taking 8 years old to load this app. He must have crashed the site. It's like, no, it's just a reminder of my phone. So I type in Drake, no new album. Look at any new stuff that I get for stuff I follow, no new album. So I typed in Drake in the Google, the original source of this misinformation. And it was recent. It's like people already knew this stuff, and like literally there's an article written 30 minutes after 12 being like, oh, people were surprised. It's like, oh, people were duped. Oh, Drake, I guess he wasn't dropping an album tonight, even though he never said he was dropping an album. Then Lil Yachty said, are you fucking dumb? He never said he was dropping an album, stupid. And I was like, I didn't think he was either. I just didn't want to be told it dropped and then to find out it didn't drop. Just like, leave me the fuck alone until it actually drops. That's not a minor fuck up. Like, a minor fuck up is like, hey, we said it was like the weather. Oh, we said it was going to be scattered thunderstorm, and then boom, power right in the pussy, tropical storm. That's a minor fuck up. Not Drake. Like, I would rather, oh, it's going to be 92 degrees today. And then next thing you know, you're driving, and then you're in the movie Twister. Like, that I can handle the ramifications more than finding out that Drake album did not drop. I feel like that is honestly not only a fireable offense, Like, you should honestly have to go to court and do, like, community service, you know? For all the dogs, of course. Isn't that the worst, though? When, like, you think you're being surprised with something amazing, something unexpected. Like, here's the thing, right? Like, when you're not expecting something, it's like, oh, shit. Like, and then it fucking hits you out of nowhere like epiphanies, as Drake would say. I'm saying things. I feel like Drake's lyrics are so ingrained in me. I feel like it's just like, I think, I know they're not mine, like quotes and stuff, but I feel like they're just so ingrained, they come out naturally. Like, he forgets his own lyrics because, you know, he may or may not write every single one of them. But I don't give a fuck. But we recite, like, he honestly is like a modern day poet with how much music is quoted. You know, now I literally didn't even think about this, is that literally musicians, and when we think about philosophers like the Galileos, the Marcus Aurelius, I'm not deep into the weeds, but I'm aware of them. Is it Apostle? Aeropostale? It's not Aeropostale. That's a clothing company. These Greek philosophers didn't wear clothes. Have you seen all the pictures? They all have small wee-wees. Right, David? I remember seeing that David statue when I went to a museum in like 3rd grade, because there's this high museum of art in Atlanta. We went there, and there was like this rumor, like, there's a nude statue with a penis. And it's like, you know, okay, so we go there. It's a nude statue with a penis. And I'm like, you know, it looks proportionally small because of how big they made the statue. Like, of course you make an 11-foot statue and you put a regular looking penis, it's going to look irregular. It's like your small toe compared to your torso. I still don't know what my torso is. It's like a combination of your hips, your stomach, your belly button, your tailbone. I think it's basically the hips. It's all in the hips, baby. And I've been told I look like a hippie. Yippee! I don't think cats have hips. But yeah, they walk like they do. They walk like they got, you know, cats walk, I guess they call it catwalk for a reason. They walk like they got the biggest asses in the fucking world. Give you some BBL. See how that works now. Sorry. Shouldn't name drop. Oops. I guess I have to ask for consent. All I gotta do is shake some treats and I get anything I want. Sure. Well, but yeah, no, honestly, you know, we always recite, you know, these life philosophies, these daily stoics and all this shit. And we're like, we always have these quotes like, oh, you know, they always say, you know, they'll be like, and this is not a real quote. I don't know who it's from. It probably exists from somewhere, but I don't know who the fuck. Because, you know, at this point, if we've really been along as long as we have, you really think no one has thought about the same quote that you fucking thought of? They just didn't write it down on paper because they didn't have an ego thing. It was that goddamn important. But it's kind of weird. All these philosophers talk about ego, but yet they wanted their teachings of life to be spread throughout the world because God forbid if it wasn't. Okay. But it'll always be like, Dwarf in the waves of wavery will always stand in front of a man who has no bravery. And it'll be like Galileo, before he found out his brother fucked his wife. And then it'll be like, then he slit his neck open. Sometimes you got to put your pride aside to let your brother inside. By the way, I don't know if that's true. I don't know if he did. I don't know if his wife did fuck his brother. I don't even know why I went down this road. I guess the point I'm trying to make is that, look, if we're talking about actual philosophy, we're talking about actual quotes, things that stick in your head, things that actually stand the test of time. I think Drake is going to be referred as the Galileos, the Apostles, the Helios, the Davids, the Marcus Aurelius. Like, he has all these, like, hitting you out of nowhere, like, epiphanies. And then he actually wrote one of these, and then he actually made, like, a poem book, and apparently I think it's complete dog trash, because it's like, obviously, I give you guys fucking free music all fucking day and night, and you guys want to have the audacity to think I'm going to make a fucking separate poem book? Like, fuck you. And actually put time and effort into it. But yeah, I really think he's actually, like, and you can say this with artists in general, music is really like actual wisdom. It is actual true translation of feeling and emotion, and it's not always in the direct way. Kind of like life philosophy quotes. Life philosophy is not really direct. I guess sometimes it is, but really, there's not many definitive ways someone can tell you how to do something that transcends centuries and all that stuff. Like, typically quotes are supposed to be open for interpretation, so the quote is actually worth the shit to a mass amount of people. The more specific is, the less it actually can apply to anyone. Damn, look at Clint talking about philosophy and shit. But whoever's the person that gave me that notification bell that Drake dropped his album tonight, like, no context, you said music update, Drake, all the dogs, and everyone knows he's been kind of putting the artwork, and then you're gonna like think like, I literally wasted 7 minutes of my life, and then it put me in a half-ass mood. Like, fuck you. Should I ever let a grown man have that type of feeling of him putting out stuff for me? Maybe, maybe not. But this man, Drake, I think he's a young man's idol. Who wouldn't want to be Drake? But anyways. Well, everyone but Pusha T. Even when Drake does the right thing with his kids now, which I have now officially have lost my opportunity to ever interview Drake. Come on, Aubrey. Fine, I won't interview Drake. Just give me Aubrey. It's like, even when he does the right things now with his child, it almost makes it worse. It's like, oh, I let my son draw my album cover. And then now it's like, then all the comments are like, see, we need to thank Pusha T every day for giving this, for actually making Drake into a wholesome father. I'm like, oh, God. But then what if he just, like, completely doesn't never shows love to his kid or never involves his kid's life? Then he is, like, exactly what Pusha T said he was. So it's this double-edged sword. He's either got to be a good parent, but always say that Pusha T made him be a dad, or he doesn't be a dad, and then Pusha T is like, see, he does not stand for what me, Malice, and the Clips stand for. Because, ain't nobody love you like I love you. Oh, you're a good girl, but I still don't trust you. Every night I talk to you. But yeah. Oh, I don't know. Maybe I'll have quotes, from this podcast. Maybe podcasts will turn into things that stand the test of time with quotes. Like, I just imagine, like, one day, like 5 years from now, someone's going to cut up like a shitload of my podcasts, and it's going to be like 3 separate videos. One video is going to be all the most fucked up, heinous, angry rants towards the most specific things that people think I have some type of borderline issue, right? Whatever. Then there's going to be the second video where it's going to be all the shittiest, the worst things I've ever said, and they compile it with no context. There's going to be some, probably like they're just going to put things shaped to make it sound like I hate certain ways, hate certain, groups and how certain things operate. They'll probably take that part and say I hate certain groups. And then there's going to be the best of all, where it's going to be all by motivational. It's going to be all my singing. Is going to be all the best quotes I've made on this podcast. And someone's going to spend a lot of time editing those videos, more than I've ever spent editing anything in my life. I don't even edit my I never even edited my papers in school. That's how much against editing I am. Am I really against editing? No. You should actually edit when it's complete nonsense. But see, I kind of have this ego of myself, for better or worse, that I always kind of believe what you put out the first time, or what you write down the first time, is exactly how you actually want it to go. You just got to refine certain things. But like this thing, like you should never put out the first thing you write. Like your rough draft should never see the light of day. It's like, what the then like, if I just want to sit there and work on the same thing for 3 years, like this, it's like that just means it's not good. I'm not saying things are going to be good instantly, but if you actually think and put due diligence in your head before you put it down on paper, you don't have to waste a bunch of time writing shit. Like, I think there's two ways to approaching writing of any type. There's I'm just going to write everything that comes down in my head. And there's the volume type of writing. Or you could apply this to anything, in my opinion, where you're speaking, writing, like, you just say everything and then you cut down what's not good and blah, blah, blah. And you just put down everything just to make yourself, get as much out there. And there's the ones that like think in their head. They're considered procrastinators. They're considered ones that aren't really, don't really have a plan when they're doing things. But they'll just sit and think of something for months and months and let that idea develop in their head. And then they just start. Then when they do start, it is just this nonstop. It's almost like binge. It's like binge writing. Like you can put like months and months of stuff in your head and write it down in 3-4 days. Or you can write a little bit every day, but you're never really on task of the same thing you're writing. Like I believe when you think of something, you have a small, precise period of time that you have to capitalize on staying in that thought that makes it juicy. Like so juicy. Like juicy with all the natural and added preservative sugars and the juicy buttocks, it's like. And then you have like when it sets out, it's like if you have juice if you drink every single day, it becomes less juicy. Like it becomes real dry. Juice should not be dry. Your body will naturally produce the juice. You just got to know when to squeeze, baby. Do you want a spray tan or do you want a lifelong tan? That's the way I put it. People think, and that's where I've kind of learned that more is not more. Doing more is not more. It's about just, I guess, like constantly always being actively present. It doesn't mean you have to actually do the thing physically every single day, but you need to be presently at least thinking about what you want to do with that thing every day, or at least as often as possible. Because once you lose that present thinking, you get disattached from that thing. But yeah, I don't know what the fuck I'm saying. But yeah, teeter-totter, vote for Pedro. And honestly, I really still, this is how much I don't care about the news. This is how much I don't care about politics. Even though I don't even really know how much is politics, but there's a lot of things, just the optics of what's going on with, like Trump and all these people being indicted in Fulton County, because I guess that's where a lot of this stuff took in place, of election and kind of election fraud and all this stuff. It's like, honestly, like, I don't know, it doesn't really matter. Like, I'm not saying it doesn't matter, because it's, literally the integrity and of our country and stuff, and whether we have non-rigged elections. But if you really think that every country doesn't have a rigged election, I think you're kind of exactly why rigged elections are very common. But the whole thing that's weird about all this stuff, right? It's like, he's not arrested, but he turned himself in. They take a mugshot. He comes in literally just to take a mugshot. And then he gets to leave. And then he gets back on his jet. It's like, is this really like a criminal case? If you just come in like, hey, so you just kind of acknowledge that like some weird shit kind of happened. And he takes a mugshot, I guess pays $200,000, which is like, like really? Maybe that's the maximum bond they could do. It's like, he pays $200,000. Like, all right, we got your picture. We'll keep in touch. And it's like, I feel like if he really wanted to, he could just kind of escape wherever the fuck he wanted to. He literally has that kind of money and shit, and the resources and the power, and also understands, probably now being the president, of how specific the corruption and all that stuff gets. I just kind of find it interesting. It's like, they're making this whole deal. The news are out there. Like, they have news reporters on the ground, like, watching the cars, like, following the car on the highway that he's in. And it's just like, who watches this? And then I'm looking more like the people actually out there. Like, all right, so you're going to be there for, like, the next 4 months of your life. Like, whenever these trials start and all that. You're going to be outside every day waving a sign, thinking that fucking matters. And if you already feel the fixes in, why are you feeling the like, oh, my sign outside is really going to be different? And it's like people either supporting or going against. It's like, don't go get a hobby. Like, I know I say that way too much, but when I see a lot, like when I see stuff, I'm just like, get a fucking hobby. Like, go, you know what? Just go try out some new sexualities of yourself. I don't know. There's got to be something better than going out there on some signs, holding up some stuff, and like really feel like you're doing something. Like, all the stuff that's happening, it's happening in there, if it's even really happening. And then apparently, I don't know if this was true. It came from raptv.com, which is typically a pretty credible source on YouTube. Apparently, Donald Trump can hire any fucking lawyer. And you know whose lawyer this man hired? I guess this dude is very specific in his expertise. This man hired Gunna's. Gunna's lawyers. Right? I don't know. I thought that was like, this man could literally hire any fucking lawyer in the world. And it's just like, yeah, give me the one that Gunna got. I mean, he got the Young Slime Life case, Hey, I'm kind of in a sticky situation myself. You know how sticky it gets. But yeah, I'm just kind of looking like, what do we really, like, I don't understand people, like, I guess it's a one thing to be like caring about something. Like, you should care about something, but it's like, I feel like we have been trained to care about things that actually we feel we have a patriotism, or we feel we have a, I don't know if onus is the right word, but we feel we have an obligation to care about things that involve America and corruption and all this stuff that's happening. And it's just like, I feel like these news, here's my issue with the news, like on a mass level, is that they tell you, they almost set up to make situations a lot worse in terms of, these are the things, when you put all this stuff and make a spectacle of it every fucking day, these are the things that are going to cause riots. These are the things that are going to cause people to kill people over things. These are the things that are going to cause violence. These are the things that are going to cause real tension between people, and between our allies and other countries. Like, they see this stuff, and we're just watching as people, and there's a fine line between like, did anyone actually ever ask people if this is what we want to see? There's always these things like, oh, well, we gotta give the people what they want. Like, who wants to sit there and watch some case that takes place in a governmental judicial system when it involves the government system, which is why it's government being tried in a government assisted place? So it's literally the definition of, we are having the government decide government. Let me rephrase that. We are really having the judge who works for a judicial system, which is attacked Congress and attacked the government, House and all that shit, and all this stuff. It is the equivalent of having it's kind of like having your boss who you make a lot of money for, and the higher ups going to him and being like, hey, does he show, does this employee, does he show up for time? And that boss knows without that employee, his numbers would be shit. And it helps keep his job. It helps him get some bonuses. He's like, no, the guy is on time every day. I mean, he's a model employee. If I were to have a son, I wish he was half the man this man was. Knowing this man's 20 minutes late every day, does what he wants, never in uniform. Once took his mom on a date. And it's like, but he knows, it's in my best interest if we keep that to the side. That's what it feels like with a trial that involves governmental corruption or corruption among people attached to government. Having an outdated court system that we use called the judicial system, and have that decide whether corruption took place or not. Having corruption be decided in a corrupted system in a building, asking how bad corruption was taking place, something about that's kind of But what do? You can't really change. I mean, at this point, we're so far in, you can't really change how things work. Or can you? Because, like, let's say, for example, just saying off the top of my head, prostitution. I don't know why that was off the top of my head. Well, actually, I do know why it was off the top of my head. But I got to pretend like I don't know why it's at the top of my head. But, there's certain things, like, once it's ingrained in society, like, You can't just like get rid of it. We can't just get rid of the court system. We can't readjust it, because then that looks like it's corruption. When they made the court system like they did, it was because, like, there was a lot less people. And there wasn't a lot of historical documentation of things at the time. Now there's so much documentation of corrupted shit happening within the realm of this that a lot of it just doesn't make sense. So it's like, if you were to take away prostitution, and we'll just say porn, the two P's, PMP, pussy and penis, it is involved in both. Well, sometimes it might not be. You gotta choose one or the other. Or with some, you can literally choose one or the other. That's absolutely the beautiful thing of versatility in that field. I have a feeling if you have both, if you've been let's just say if you have transferred, if you have transitioned, I'm pretty sure you have a hot market. I mean, apparently it's booming. But anyways, yeah, should porn or prostitution, should it be illegal? Because prostitution is technically illegal, but it's not really illegal, let's be honest. Which, by the way, just because it's not direct form of compensation, that doesn't mean prostitution is not. I think prostitution is actually more common in actual relationships you see with people, because a lot of things can be sexual transaction, but it's a lot of indirect sexual transaction. But, that's just the way it is. But to direct prostitution, the good old, hey, $125, come to my room, then you're going to add an extra $50 tip because I jizzed on your face and that was not part of the agreement. Hey, you know what? You live and you learn. Not from me. I would never do such a thing. I would always make sure it doesn't get on the face, because I don't want to face that. Jizzy Jazzy Jeff. But no, it's a fascinating thing because we have been introduced to it so long. What would be the ramifications if we actually got rid of prostitution? If we completely made it illegal, where even the sight of the idea is automatic, send your ass to Detroit on a bus like they do homeless people. If porn was just completely illegal, well, for one, with these things, people, of course, would always still find ways to get it. But is it more safer to have it in a structure where, even though it's illegal, it is still monitored to an extent and regulated? Or if it's so illegal that people would be scared to do it and they may resort to the other things to fill those extreme voids. Because let's be honest, look, I think prostitution kind of keeps the world going round. It keeps a lot of people out of making terrible, terrible decisions. And yes, having sex with a prostitute is not one of the 100 best decisions you will ever make in your life. But it's probably not one of the 20 worst ones you make. I mean, unless you get her pregnant, then, you both belong to the streets. And your child will be in, someone else's custody. The pimps. You will really learn what it means to be a motherfucking PIMP. But yeah, prostitution, it's a touchy subject because it sounds like when a guy, let's just be honest, when a guy starts trying to give actually the world needs more prostitution. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that if you were to take away something that we are kind of used to an extent, and that I say we like I'm an active participant or something. We, the people, we as men who can't control our wee-wees, if prostitution was just kind of made, if prostitution was completely banned and there was no relatively easy access to just paying for something of that, I think the ramifications of it would be a lot of other things that people would fuck some shit up. Because people that have those extreme urges to not control themselves, if you don't give voluntary ways for them to, no pun intended, get it off, they might take, I honestly think it will create very terrible, bad, toxic behaviors. Because when you think about what sexual energy and things people will do for sex and the extremism some people will go to, it is the most powerful drug, in my opinion. I think sexual energy, sexual power, sexual desire, sexual lack of sexual ability to tell yourself no is one of the most powerful and detrimental things to a person, man or woman. But typically prostitutes, we're talking about men paying for women, if we're going to be honest. And when you're making these laws, it's easy to talk about what's wrong. I think most people would be like, prostitution is, it's morally wrong. Which it's only morally wrong until, it's convenient that the other person, if the woman is making a lot of money, then all of a sudden it's empowering. It's like people have no problems talking about OnlyFans models, people that expose their body on OnlyFans and stuff and make $100K, $1 million a month. That's empowering, but being a prostitute's not. It's like, okay, I get why it's different because there could be trafficking and shit. But we're talking about someone just being a hoe, okay? Just be a hoe. Ho, ho, ho. And with this outfit, Mrs. Claus is coming to town. Ah, Jesus. Hop in the knapsack. Let's just say you'll find more than some coal in this stocking. Because it's a cold world. It's outside. Oh, but you can't get enough. But, I honestly think the world would actually go mad. Like, I honestly think you would see crimes at the highest rate. I think you would see people doing some of the most heinous shit. Because I think prostitution, and I think having that access to sex and porn, I think in a lot of ways, it actually stops people from resorting to their most extreme desires. Because everyone has desires, or everyone has things that they're into that they know is not normal. They think it's taboo. They know societally it's considered toxic. They know societally they would be looked at completely different. They know, like, the thing is 90% of plus people know with certain desires they have that this, I should not be thinking this. But it's like, hey, just get it, have consensual sex with a prostitute, pay for it, blah, blah, blah. It's normal. Like, that's normal. Whether it's right or not, that's not what we're talking about. It's normalized. Like, no one looks at prostitution and is like, oh my God. Like, it's like, people will shake their head. It's wrong. You wouldn't want your daughter doing it. But, you know what? If you don't want your daughter being a prostitute, pay her bills. Be a better dad. Facts. I don't know why I said that. Just pay your daughter's mortgage, all right? But, when you say that, then the counter argument is always, well, maybe men should just have better discipline. It's like, well, I kind of did say that, Yeah. But we're not talking about what's ideal. We're not talking about what's right or what's wrong. We're talking about what's realistic. And if you're talking about banning something, you got to deal with the ramifications what comes with banning stuff. People are just going to resort to something else. If cigarettes were banned, people would just resort to extreme vaping and all that. So, like, people are going to resort to something, and that's going to cause, with all the batteries and shit, that causes another environmental issue. Like, there are trade-offs for everything you want. You just got to decide, is it worth the trade-offs, and are we prepared for, if we ban this, we have a system in place to, over time, to normalize something else for people to do that replaces that same feeling, emotion, and attachment. And the thing with sex, you can't really replace it. There is nothing like it, but but no, you can't replace the things. People kill people over sex. People kill over sexual desire. People kill over rage for sexual desire. And if you take people that couldn't have a regular love life without the opportunity to have this system in place that both parties benefit, then what is that person going to turn into? You're giving someone at least the lack of ability to enjoy one of the natural senses in the body. People are they're going to go crazy. And they're going to become bitter. And then they're going to shoot up every Walmart that comes across your plate. All right? Every Walmart, every month, there's going to be just this is not going to help me in the algorithm. But wherever you go, there's going to be a lot of problems. All right? We're not talking, because everyone's like, oh, you just got to have sexual discipline. It's like, well, there's a difference when you're having sexual discipline when you have the choice to be disciplined about it. The issue is, if there's nothing to be disciplined from because you're getting no offers, it's not discipline. It's deprivation. That's like someone who's homeless and is like, oh, well, they're just really disciplined on their diet. It's like, no, they literally don't have the option to eat. They don't have any money. And they're like, well, I applaud the fact that they just, they could just tell themselves to fast and not eat until they actually only need to eat. Because that's the way God made us. It's like, I don't know, the way this guy's looking, I don't think God made, it's like, this dude's thinner than Jesus was. I mean, when he fasted for 37 days or whatever the fuck it was. But I think a misconception is not about being pro prostitution. It's just about, are you willing to deal with what comes with it if you take away that avenue? Which, by the way, prostitution is illegal. I cannot stress this enough. So, kids, do not go out there. Don't go online. Don't go out, even if it's obvious that she is out there to, serve the community. That's so fucked up to say. But, someone's got to keep the heads up high. It's depressing out here. Like, if you live in the most depressed city in the country, which they have statistics. I forgot what the city is. I think it's like somewhere in Washington. It's considered the most depressed city in America. Like, you're telling me, having a couple perky, fentanyl addicts out there, keeping a couple, keeping a couple men happy out there. You think that's the worst thing for the city morale? I don't know. I don't think it's a bad idea. I'm not saying I'm not. Dude, this sounds like I'm promoting prostitution. I swear to God, I'm not. I'm just saying that negative incel negative energy that will come from that, that comes with whatever you think it takes for someone that desires that or goes that route. It's just going to go somewhere else, and the damage of that may be even more damaging. But as I was saying before, when you have those extreme desires, like when people are into really extreme stuff, right? I'm not even going to say the stuff. You guys know what I'm talking about. Booty pounding. I'm kidding. That's mild. But no, you know what I'm talking about. The ones that they start dressing like big old mouses with leather. They literally just look like mouses with a leather ball in their mouth. It's like, I'm not shaming what you're into. I am not king shaming. But I'm just saying, if you need to get unnecessarily hot and sweaty before you do the act that makes you hot and sweaty, you probably got generational trauma. Oh, I just want to feel stimulated. It's like, have you ever tried pre-workout? Just drink some herbal teas. It does wonders. And, you know, and then it becomes that, and then it turns into something else, and then you go too far down the road, and then you get, you know, Jared from Subway. Unfortunately, kind of, probably, actually. Yeah. Shit, that reminds me, I have the fucking coupons that expired in 2 days. It's crazy the things that remind me of things. But yeah. Pedophiles and reptiles. I just thought I'd fit that in. I have no idea what it means. Well, I do. But I'm just going to throw it in there because it sounds cool. But yeah. I don't know, you know. I just think people make too big of a deal of it. It's normalized. It's normal. I just don't think you just can't completely outlaw something with something that we as people are used to. Like, we're so conditioned to a lot of things. No one's saying outlaw Christianity or outlaw religion. No one's saying outlaw certain American foods that kill people every day, that cause cancer. It's like, you know what? People have the right to decide if they want to eat that pumpkin spice Twinkie, which is a real fucking thing, by the way. Yeah. 3 for $10. Twinkies, by the way, suck. Like, it looks like SpongeBob with a little, you know, gay falafel Thanksgiving turkey seasoning on it. That's a lot of culture. Under the sea. But I don't know, you know, I just think that you can't just take away what people are accustomed to, because one, it's going to create that desire for it more. And once you create that desire, the lengths people will go to, they might actually start committing these things in real life. I don't even want to say the things because I'm trying to keep this kid friendly, even though I've talked about unkid friendly things for the past 23 minutes. But I am trying to not say certain words because I care about what the kids are viewing and listening to these days. But suck them titties anyways. There's no age where it's inappropriate to suck some titties. Well, as long as the recipient is of legal age, of your age that you're legally in. Remember to check your birth certificate. Some of them lie. You don't want to find out the hard way that you were 2 years older than you should have been. Oh, Jesus. That's what we're going to have to start doing, you know. You know, before back in the day, you just, or not back in the day, but like, if you like had some questions to someone lying about their age, be like, hey, can I just see your ID to make sure I didn't show up on a date with a 20-year-old girl or something. And then, like, people get offended when you ask for that. Like, you just be like, hey, I just met you on a random site to go on a date or whatever it was. And then people get offended, like, oh, how dare you? It's like, you should be asking me for my ID. It's like, I feel like, honestly, like, I'm going to need your ID. I'm going to need your birth certificate. I'm going to need your alcohol permit. I'm going to need everything. All right. I'm going to need you to bring, like, I'm going to be worse than, like, TSA. I'm going to be worse than freaking the DMV. I'm going to be worse than any fucking, I guess when you get a passport, you have to confirm. Like, bring your passport, too. I need to prove that you can actually, if we need to flee, I need to know that we can flee. I don't want to find out the hard way, like, oh, actually, I can't leave the country. I'm actually on house arrest. It's like, well, I guess enjoy your prison stay. Because I'm gone, bitch. I'm going to Ukraine, where the happy times are. But I swear, people are going to listen to this and think like I own a brothel or something. I don't even put broth in my soup. I forgot what it was. Oh, here it is. So I want to create a shirt. So how, like, they have brand logos and shit. So Little Debbie. They have apparently a Little Debbie shop, which if you spend $40 on a Hostess Little Debbie shirt, I honestly might smack the shit out of you. No, not really. At least I don't think so. Never mind, I'm not going to say that. But any jizz. So I thought have a Little Debbie shirt or a Hostess shirt. And then have a caption under it or some words on it. Be like, I'm your favorite snack, except I'm not full of empty calories. That's a knee slapper. I was hoping for a big laugh out of the atmosphere, but I did not get it. I think they were just processing it. Kind of like the food you're eating. It's all one big process. Oh, well, speaking of process, have you ever put your ear to a pregnant woman's belly? Well, we all have, because we've all been inside. And when you're inside a woman's belly, typically you're about 90 degrees to the left, and typically your left ear is most likely to be near the belly button or near the front of the mom's stomach. Fun fact. Where did I learn that from? My intuition. Actually, I'm actually not shitting on spiritual, because I actually watched a video where this lady or this girl, she has a podcast or something, and this channel I watched, they covered a brief portion of it where she was doing her I guess they were having like one of those intense spiritual one-on-ones with someone, like two spiritual women. One woman looked like a grandmother from The Witcher on a horse. Like, literally whatever you think a spiritual woman in her 60s would look like, she looked like that. And then the other woman was the podcast that she hosted or whatever. And she was like, wow. Like, they were having one of those, like, readings with each other, whatever you call it. And they're like, it was really uncomfortable to watch. Because, like, God, I just feel your energy. It's so like, she literally said, you have a grandmotherly energy. And he's like, yeah, because she looks like a grandmother. And then there was another clip they showed from the same podcast, was a different girl. She's like, actually, because she was talking about how twerking, no joke, she said twerking is spiritual. Because so then she started talking about some nonsense like ancestors and all that stuff, your energy actually flows through your hips, and your hips is where your happiness cortex to relieve all your trauma. She said twerking relieved her trauma. Well, it relieves mine too. Imagine if we said, hey girl, you're twerking, it just relieves my childhood ancestral trauma. Like, it relieves all of it. I forget about all of it. It just lets it go. It's better than a baptism. Because that booty is baptizing. See, you know what? If I just went to church and it was just booty twerking, I would go to church. Hey, I'll make time for it. Yeah. It's like, but you only slept 2 hours. It's like, yep. And I feel wide awake. As Drake would say, I got that googly eyed. Regardless of what their husbands do to provide. Ugh. I shouldn't have said that in my context. Because that makes me sound like I'm googly eyed. And that I have a husband. Because he was talking about when he pulls up in his fleet of Suburbans. And then he's talking about the woman's at his son's daycare or school. Yeah, you get what I'm saying. But yeah, apparently twerking is spiritual. Because all of the energy is cleansed through your hips. And when you're twerking, because shaking, it shakes all of your stress and all of your built-in. And it's like, really? Okay. Because I've seen girls twerk and then 2 minutes later start like throwing haymakers at someone. So apparently it didn't relieve a whole lot of stress. I've seen a lot of these videos, all right? It seems like twerking actually can lead to a lot of violence. So apparently it didn't relieve them to, find some middle ground. But if you put your finger in the middle, what can brown do for you? Ugh. And that's a package that will deliver. Maybe not on time, but it'll be there when you call. All right. I think I'm going to stop it there before, I get the prostitutes sending me a message of how I disgrace their profession. And I'm like, hey, I'm trying to keep you in business. Because I'm a man who's all for small business, even though it's probably the biggest business internationally in the world. But you know what? You guys don't have to pay taxes. So you know what? I feel so bad for you. Well, I mean, you have to pay the taxing that's done on your body and your poom. But other than that, it's tax-free, baby. But yeah, that was episode 215. I'm such a fool. Of the Off and Be podcast with Clint Nelson. I'm your host, Clint Nelson. Don't forget to like, follow, comment, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Most important, ladies and gentlemen, don't forget to suck some titties. Yeah. Well, you know what? Just keep sex to yourself. Just go solo. Don't have the problems of all that. Forget everything I said this episode. You know what? Reserve your sexual energy. Don't pay for prostitutes. Don't watch porn. Just pretend. Just train yourself that sex is more problematic to your health than it's worth. Yeah. But shout out to the prostitutes. I'm here for you. I'm actually for, woman empowerment. Just keep twerking, and your spiritual being will be A1. Now that's one for the books. All right. I think I've had enough. All right. Adios, amigas.